everyone, it's time for another creepy scary video, and for tonight's creepy video I'm going to be talking about Indrid Cold. And this is a really creepy scary subject to me, and I found it really interesting, so I thought that I would make a video on it. Now, I did find a lot of information on Indrid whenever I was researching the subject. I probably won't be able to fit all of it into this video, so I'm just going to try my hardest to include what I can, and I hope that that is okay, and I hope you guys enjoyed this as much as I did. So, Indrid Cold, also known as the Grinning Man, is a humanoid entity. His name comes from his tendency to smile from the people who encounter him. Some people believe he is an alien, and he has also been associated with UFO activity. It is also believed that he is somehow connected to the Men in Black. He has been described as being over 6 feet tall, having a tan or a green complexion, small beady eyes that set far apart. He has also been described as not having a nose, ears, or hair. He's been seen wearing a reflective green suit or blue suit. So I found several sightings of Indrid Cold that I thought were really interesting and creepy, and I thought that I would include into this video. But as I said, there's so much that I found, so I'm going to try to include what I can into this video, and like I said, I hope that that's okay. But Indrid Cold was first seen on October 16th, 1966 by 2 boys in New Jersey named Martin Mouse Manove and James Jimmy Yanchidis? I don't know, I can't say his last name. I'm horrible at pronouncing stuff, guys, I'm sorry. So these 2 boys were going for a walk when they noticed a figure standing behind this really tall fence. When they got closer upon this figure, they noticed that it was a really tall man that was wearing a really green metallic looking suit, and he had a big grin on his face. The man chased them until he lost track of them. Jimmy nudged me and said, "Who's that guy standing behind you?" I looked around, and there he was behind the fence, just standing there. He pivoted around and looked right at us. Then he grinned a big old grin, Manove told police. So 3 days after their encounter with the Grinning Man, this man named John Keel, which is also the guy that is famous for the Mothman Prophecies novel that he wrote, he was really involved in the Mothman, which I think is really cool because it's really close to home. I live in West Virginia, and Point Pleasant is only like 2 hours away from me, if that, maybe like an hour and a half away from me, so it's not that far. So that always has interested me. It's always been one of my favorite subjects, but a couple of days after this happened, he actually went there with 2 other people. The names were James Mosley and a famed actor and paranormal enthusiast, Chuck McCain, and the boys were interviewed individually, and according to Kill, they had like the exact description of this figure that was seen. So they went to the site where this figure was spotted, and they investigated it, and they came to the conclusion that if this was a real person, they would be hollering out. If they had like car troubles or something, they would be hollering out, trying to get help. They wouldn't just be standing there smiling at you like very like oddly, you know what I mean? Like he was just standing there smiling at them with this really creepy grin on his face. I don't think that someone that was having like car troubles, which they at first had suspected, would be doing that. I think that they would be hollering and, you know, trying to get help because their car was broke down. So it wasn't very long after this figure had been seen by this fence that it got spread around the neighborhood. And a few people had actually witnessed a UFO sighting like a few hours before this had actually happened, or around the same time that this had actually happened. And Kill was kind of convinced that it had something to do with the UFO sightings. This figure, this man that they had seen, he thought that it had something to do with these UFO sightings. So this was just 40 miles north of Elizabeth, New Jersey, around this DuPont explosive factory outside of Pompton Lakes. there were 2 eyewitnesses to this UFO, and it was a police officer and his wife. So if it's a police officer, you know that it has to be legit. So the police officer and his wife watched as this big light zoomed above their heads. It was described as resembling a blazing white light as big as a car, and it nearly hit an almost 600-foot tall television tower before vanishing over nearby hills at a fast pace. So then later there were 2 other officers that had actually witnessed the same UFO light that this officer had witnessed in the sky. The officers, Patrolman Edward Wester and Sergeant Benjamin Thompson, the pair watched as the UFO soared over them at a low altitude. So Sergeant Thompson later stated, "The light was brilliantly white. It lit up the whole area for about 300 yards. In fact, it blinded me when I got out of the patrol car to look at it, and I couldn't see it for about 20 minutes afterwards." And I believe that I also seen somewhere where this lady had seen like a really tall green figure in the neighborhood as well, right before those 2 boys had also seen the same thing. So the second sighting happened to be really close to home, and it was right as the whole reign of terror of the Mothman was going on, right? So on November 2nd, 1966, less than a month after the first sighting, this sewing machine salesman, Woodrow Derenberger, was driving home on Interstate 77 after a long day of work when all of a sudden a bizarre vehicle dropped from the dark sky and landed in the road in front of him with a tremendous crash sound. So this man was driving home from work, and all of a sudden this car just comes out of the sky, out of nowhere, drops right in front of him with this really loud crashing sound. And I believe that I also read somewhere where there was like this big bright light around this car. The vehicle apparently was unlike any other vehicle that he had seen before, and he described it as an old-fashioned kerosene lamp chimney flaring at both ends, narrowing down to a small neck, and then enlarging in a great bulge in the center, which makes absolutely no sense to me. So the startled man slammed on his brakes and came to an immediate stop in front of this vehicle, whatever this thing was that had just came out of the sky. So a hatch on the side of this vehicle just slid open, and this man with this tan complexion stepped out. This really tall man with this tan complexion stepped out and started walking towards him. So the salesman described it pretty much the same as the first sighting. He said that this figure had elongated eyes, and he also had this really creepy grin, which he said that he seen from the glare of his lights, from his truck's headlights. The only difference in his description of this man was that he wasn't wearing a green reflective suit, he was actually wearing a blue reflective suit. So Derenberger then claimed that this man spoke to him telepathically, which I very much believe in. He didn't actually speak these words, nothing ever actually came out of his mouth, but he said that he spoke to him telepathically, and he started asking him a series of questions. Right after that, he said, "My name is Cold, and I will be visiting you again." Cold then returned to this strange vehicle and then just soared up into the sky. So Derenberger, sometime after this, had revealed that Cold had came to him several times. He had several encounters with Cold after this, and he had told him that he was from the planet Lanulas, or something like that, which was nestled in the galaxy of I don't know. I'm going to put the words on the screen because I cannot pronounce these names, you guys. I'm horrible at pronouncing names. He later on explained that Cold had taken him to his home planet where he seen a bunch of people wearing colorful shorts. And he seen these signs that had like this squiggly writing on it, almost hard to make out pretty much. Cold was soon followed by 2 other grinning men named Demo Haysen and Carl Ardu. Derenberger's wife had also met these men, and she had claimed that they were very evil, like they had a very evil intent to them. It wasn't long after all of these encounters that his wife unfortunately divorced him, and then he went on to be a co-author of a book talking about his experiences, which was called, hang on, let me get it up. visitors from La Nulus, I can't say it. I'm gonna leave it on the screen somewhere because, like I said, guys, I'm horrible at pronouncing stuff. So that was the second encounter of the grinning man. There was another encounter directly after this where Kill had talked to this family called the Lilley's family, and they lived in Point Pleasant, West Virginia. It was right around the time that the Mothman stuff was going on, like when all the talk about the Mothman was happening. The Lilleys were dealing with some frightening poltergeist activity in their home. They had been seeing these peculiar lights right outside of their house in the sky on a nightly basis. According to Mrs. Lilley, we've seen all kinds of strange things. Blue lights, green ones, red ones, things that change color. Some have been so low that we thought we could see diamond-shaped windows in them, and none of them make any noise at all. So the incident involving the grinning man, though, did not involve the entire family. It just mainly focused on their daughter, Linda. So she had told John Kill that she had been waken up in the middle of the night to a figure leering over top of her. It was a man, a big man, very broad. I couldn't see his face very well, but I could see that he was grinning at me. He walked around the bed and stood right over me. I screamed again and hid under the covers. When I looked again, he was gone. Linda then ran into her mother's room shrieking. She refused to sleep alone for months after that. So whether this figure was the grinning man or some kind of paranormal encounter with a ghostly apparition or just a part of Linda's imagination, who really knows? They did kind of find it odd how, in New Jersey, like right before those two boys seen the grinning man, a lot of people in their neighborhood had also experienced UFO sightings, had seen UFOs. Kill thought that maybe it was connected, the two of them, like the figure that she's seen standing over top of her in her bed and the lights that they had been seeing in the sky. He thinks that somehow they were connected and that it could have maybe been the grinning man, but they do not know for sure. So this leads us to a theory. Could Indrid Cold be a part of the Men in Black? Could he be from a part of an intergalactic police force that was put here to, keep peace or simply observe the proceedings as they unfold? Could he be part of the Men in Black? I mean, to me that's kind of like the same thing as the Men in Black, like a paranormal, supernatural, intergalactic police force that's like put here to watch over things and just make sure that nobody suspects anything. To me that's kind of the same thing. A lot of people though encountered him and the Men in Black, or just the Men in Black themselves, during the whole Mothman incident. So a lot of people believe that the two could be connected somehow. So in December of 1978, a 26-year-old night watchman, PR, I don't know. I think it's PR. Ben Frita was on a routine patrol in the village of, I'm not even going to try to say that, Italy. I'll put the name on the screen here so you guys can see. He claims that he was abducted by a trio of gigantic, yellow-eyed, semi-reptilian aliens. But one of his encounters had something to do with the grinning man. On December 3rd, 1979, Zanfreda got out of his patrol car at a self-service gas station. He claimed to have heard some sort of calling out to him from the shadows behind the gas station. Zanfreda described the entity that was speaking to him as a tall, humanoid figure with a bald, egg-shaped head who was dressed in a checkered suit that included a chest plate made of steel. He was also grinning from ear to ear. This entity had spoke to him without moving his lips and told him to drive his car into this little cloud that was hovering above him. Zanfreda swore that the sound of the grinning man's voice kind of like compelled him to physically obey. So the young guard did as he was told, and he said that he and his patrol car were both levitated into a spacecraft. So this ship, according to the Watchman, was filled not only with the reptilian aliens that had been abducting him, but large transparent cylinders filled with blue liquid. One of the cylinders was said to have contained a frog-shaped body, which the aliens explained was an enemy of ours from another planet. So in the years since 1978, there have been a few sporadic, unconfirmed sightings of the Grinning Man. The first is from April 23rd, 2009, when a blogger known as H.R. Zapruder posted an encounter with the Grinning Man while driving near Roswell, New Mexico. Soon afterwards, I drove past a man standing in the brush. I thought he was hitchhiking, so I sped past. You know, hitchhikers equals bad news. Anyway, I didn't think much of it at first, but as I sped by, I noticed a green glistening, so I inspected the rearview mirror. I saw the man from behind. He was bald and over 6 feet tall, wearing a sparkling green jacket. The rest was obscured by the brush. When I arrived in town, I was told by some locals I'd just missed a UFO. So another strange report comes from an author, A.J. DiChiara? I don't know. Who told his sister's harrowing experience with a grinning man in the late 1980s. So this unnamed woman was driving to her home in Connecticut when this entity drove up beside her in what she described as a phantom glowing car. She looked over and saw what she described as a hideous creature, staring at her with glowing yellow eyes and a toothy grin. As quickly as it appeared, the strange vehicle vanished. And this inspired her brother to write a whole fiction book called The Grinning Man. So yeah, that was all to this Indrid Cold story. I hope you guys enjoyed this video. If you did, please give me a big ol' thumbs up. Subscribe to my channel if you have not already and become a morbid maniac. Also, leave me a comment and let me know what you think of Indrid Cold. Do you think that he has something to do with the Men in Black or like these UFO sightings that everyone's seeing? Do you believe in aliens? Do you believe in the Men in Black? Do you believe all of this is real? Leave me a comment and let me know. I definitely do believe that it is very possible. I am a very open-minded person whenever it comes to this sort of thing. I don't believe that we are the only living beings in outer space. Like, I believe that there has to be another planet out there that has other living creatures on it, such as us. So I don't believe that we are the only thing out here. I don't think that, you know, there as everyone says that they are, like cartoony type of aliens. I believe that they can maybe look just like us, just like this Indrid Cold. And I believe that maybe he was a part of the Men in Black and he was just trying to get their attention off of the aliens and get their attention on him. But either way, I've always thought that this was really creepy because I seen it on an episode of Monsters and Mysteries in America. And ever since I seen that episode, I was always creeped out of Indrid Cold. And yeah, I will see you guys in my next video. Bye!
I can't talk. I'm sorry, I can't talk tonight.